Hey guys, welcome back. I have a quickie tutorial for you guys today. A quickie, but an important one. There are two ways to make your figures look three-dimensional. The first method is in the drawing. And that's a more complicated process that involves, practicing your anatomy. And I'm going to do a separate video on that, and that one is not going to be a quickie. But this one is going to be a quickie because the second way to second way to make your figures look 3D is to apply shadows with your colors. And the way that I teach my students how to do the shadows is you pick one light source. You pick a diagonal light source either from the right side or from the left side, and you render three kinds of shadows based on that diagonal light source. And I found that it is really the easiest way to figure out the shadows and just make it look 3D without thinking about it too much. All right? So three kinds of shadows. Number one, shadows that happen because the light is above the figure. So things like the bottom half of the breast, the bottom half of the butt, right? Not pectorals so much, because pectorals usually don't stick out as far as breasts, but if you're doing somebody who's like super ripped, then maybe. Like if you were to have a bent arm, then this bottom half of the arm would be in shadow, right? And so this leg, it's being bent back, so it's in shadow. The second kind is shadow that happens on the dark side away from the light. So in this figure, the light is coming from this side. So this whole side of her body is dark. So this side of her torso and her leg, this side of her other leg, this side of her arm, the inside of her hand. And then the third kind of shadow is cast shadow or drop shadow. People call it different things. So basically something is blocking the light and casts a shadow. For example, here where this leg is in front of the light source, and so not only is this side of the leg dark, but this side of the leg is also dark because it's a cast shadow from this leg. These neck shadows are cast shadows from the jaw being in the way of the light and casting shadows on the neck. A lot of the time you're going to see cast shadows in garments where large floppy sweaters and big swinging skirts will cast shadows on legs and limbs and such. So this is your light source. And so the first shadow that happens on the bottom half of things. So you're going to have a shadow on the bottom half of the breast. If you look at the side view of a breast and your light is shining on it, then this side is not going to get any shadow. The bottom half is going to get shadow. The stomach is nice and flat, and pretty. And so you're not going to have shadow on the stomach. You might get an overcast shadow if your Croquis figure for your customer is that of a Playboy bunny and she has like H-cup breasts, and yeah, you get overcast shadow from H-cup breasts. But for the most part, if you're doing like a standard fashion model who has like an A, B, or C cup, you're not going to get overcast shadow. And you want to be careful about those because if you drop shadows on the torso too low, she's going to look like she has saggy breasts. You're going to have shadows that happen away from the light. So on this sleeve, this side of the sleeve is going to be dark, and this side of the jacket is going to be dark, right? And so is this arm. Basically, unless your figure is has their arm over their head, armpits are always going to be dark. Whether it's because it's in the dark side of the light or it's a cast shadow from the other arm, armpits are always going to be dark. And then this whole side of the skirt is going to be in shadow. I don't want to see you guys do these shadows. Like, let's say he's wearing a pair of pants and I don't want to see you give me skinny little shadows like this. Think about your body as a series of cylinders, right? Because they kind of are. They're like lumpy cylinders. If your light source is over here, if you shadow this much, does that look very three-dimensional? How about now when you have more shadow going on, right? So you want like a quarter to a third of your cylinder to be in shadow. The third kind of shadow, cast shadow. So this collar and lapel is going to cast a small shadow onto the jacket. A small one because it's close to the body. And a little bit one here too. And you're like, oh, Zoe, but that's facing the light. You're still going to get a tiny bit of shadow. Just trust me. You're also going to get a shadow from the jacket sitting on top of the clothes on the inside. And this one is a little bit bigger. You're going to get shadows from the jacket. So this jacket hem. And again, these shadows are small because the jacket is close to the body on the hand. And then this skirt, because it swings so wide, the cast shadow is going to be bigger. And you see how that by itself looks 3D even without a body because the shadows, you can see a definite light source. You can see how the lights and shadows are moving around the figure. So that's the 3 kinds of shadows, guys. So in future videos when I'm like, apply the 3 kinds of shadows, you're like, what the hell is she talking about? Come back to this video. 3 kinds of shadows. Shadows that happen from the light being above, light being on one side, and then casting shadows on other things, right? 3 kinds of shadows. I'll see you next time.